I'm ready to record.
Okay, go for it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people from anywhere and everywhere. We are starting episode 2 of the Triad of Health podcast. Today we're going to focus most of the podcast. What do you think? Probably mainly just nutrition. Obviously, when Taylor and I get talking, we might go off on a tangent here and there.
Definitely some soapboxes. This is going to be the nutrition episode for sure.
Yes.
One of many.
One of many.
One of
And
lots of
like we
nutrition
said, just one more time to clarify for anyone who missed it last week or might be listening for the first time. You know, week by week, so Triad Health is fitness, nutrition, and mental health. Each episode is going to specify in one of those 3 subcategories. So it's going to be, last week's episode was catered towards fitness, this week's nutrition, next week will be mental health, and we'll start over again, fitness, nutrition, mental health, and so on. I think eventually we'll probably have guests on, right? I mean,
Yeah.
You know, once we get our mic
Absolutely.
situation figured out.
I'd love to have guests on.
Local, and, you know, if it works, we might even get some guests. Do you think Zoom might, like some guests out of state? I mean,
You
that
use
could work,
Zoom,
but
you use Skype.
put someone up on a projector right here and make them look their whole face right there.
The possibilities are definitely.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think that
I would love to get lots of guests on.
I think yeah, that'd be really big. And once again, we appreciate anyone who's watching and listening. You know, we're gonna dive into a couple of specifics today, some broader categories, talk about some nutritional myths. Taylor's got some just pots of gold he's gonna spit out of his mouth. So there you go, man. So I guess what's kind of your main thing you want to touch? Like a couple main things you want to touch on with nutrition, just to get kind of lay the foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of like give our backstory real quick.
Yeah.
On kind of what we grew up on, what our diets are now, how they've evolved, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I
So
think it'd be
people kinda
interesting
get
for
an idea.
anyone to say that, but let alone you and I. I mean, because you haven't stuck to the same diet, obviously, and I definitely haven't either. All right, dude, ladies first, go for it.
Motherfucker.
Kidding,
All
dog, kidding.
right.
You have more facial hair than me, so I'm more of a girl.
Yeah, so, I mean, I grew up with a pretty shitty diet. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Let's just.
Don't you think
say
it has
like
to do with
is.
the parents?
Yeah, I mean.
As a kid,
it
like
is
if your
dumb,
parents were fucking like raw vegans, you probably would have eaten a lot more fruits and vegetables growing up.
Probably.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's the same with me. I kind of just ate what my parents ate, which is normal and fine. But
Yeah.
so typical standard kid diet, you think?
Typical standard kid diet. Man. I ate pizza rolls and. I mean, when I was young, I mean, I ate whatever my parents had, but, you know, I ate ice cream for breakfast, and I'd go down in the basement and crack open a 7-Up, so my stepmom didn't know I was doing it. So,
I
anyways.
hope she's not listening and she'll get mad at you right now, dude.
No, but that's kind of how I grew up, and then, as we talked about in last week's episode, you know, I kind of had quite a bit of a shift. My nutrition has very much changed over the years. For a long time, I've followed kind of a modern paleo type of approach to nutrition. Now,
What do you
I've
think
sort of-
long time?
a long time, I started doing that. I really started making that shift to eating more fresh fruits and vegetables, quality meats, quality carbohydrates, less processed junk. We'll get into that in a little bit, but I started making that shift in probably about, you know, like probably really like sophomore year in high school. So I really started junior year.
That is so weird. For me, it was sophomore year too.
Yeah.
I was still eating Little Debbie's freshman year every lunch.
Dude.
And then I actually put 2 and 2 together, like, maybe if I listen and pay attention to what I put in my body, I might be able to feel better, perform better.
Dude,
You know.
7th grade. Was
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
We had those crazy sleepovers when we play Halo 3 all night or whatever.
And then you guys are, you would always eat like broccoli, right? You know?
Yeah, we ate broccoli. We just ate pounds of broccoli.
Do you, did you go to Indian Hills?
Yeah.
Middle school? So at Indian Hills, it's probably the same as Mission Hills. Mission Hills is now an old person retirement home. It's completely torn down. So it's, ghost town. But I remember the zebra cakes were everywhere. The Little Debbie zebra cakes. I used to have one of those every day for lunch for 2 years. And then my freshman year, my life was changed forever when, what were those chocolate chip cookies called? I didn't stop.
Otis Spunkmeyer.
Oh my gosh, Otis Spunkmeyer.
Fucking horrible.
The amount of fat that was in each cookie, the cookies were so soft and luscious, they fell apart just holding it. It was like you're eating cookie dough, but it was like kind of cooked still.
Oh, that was most kids' diets.
Oh
in
my!
our high school.
I had buddies who got like there's 3 per pack.
Yeah.
That are fresh and hot, and I had buddies who got 3 or 4 packs per meal. And then my sophomore year, I'm like, I'm lifting weights now, so. But dude, that was a game changer, man. So that was probably a good idea for me to get off of that, and I'm sure you probably haven't had Otis Spunkmeyer for a while.
That's one of the things we'll talk about here in a bit too. Is processed foods. The biggest thing that people can do to work towards eating better is eliminate your processed foods. You hear that a lot, and what does that mean? Like, ho-hos, Twinkies, Vault sodas. Is that a thing anymore? I used to drink Vault when I was little. Okay.
Vault or like Mountain Dew or anything under the sun that's carbonated and has sugar in it.
Sugar, yeah, 100% sugar.
And if you want to get extreme, I guess artificial sweeteners and caffeine, but that's not as bad necessarily as just 30 grams of sugar. But so you said sophomore year.
Sophomore and junior year, started making kind of a change in my diet. Definitely started to feel better for sure. And then over the years, I've kind of gotten a lot more nitpicky with it, as some people close to me know. My diet is very strange and unconventional, but now I kind of do more of a keto carnivore approach to my nutrition, and feel great doing it. But
do you know of anyone else who is very similar to the way you eat, or have you kind of just combined? Because I feel like everyone's a little different with everything. I think it's interesting how we have all these freaking subcategories now.
Oh yeah.
Like, okay, you're a vegan, you're a vegetarian, you're a pescatarian, you're a meat eater, you're paleo, you're Atkins diet.
Let's put a disclaimer out there.
Go ahead.
Right now, because I encourage people to do what works for them, and that's something I do want to talk about too. Is you hear that a lot. What works for you with your diet? Well, the only way to know what works for you is to try things and do your own self-experimentation and take things out, put things in. So it's really complicated. It's,
Well, what works for you, I guess, is obviously if you don't really care about your health, what works for you is going to be Little Debbie's, McDonald's, and Krispy Kreme. What we're saying is the people listening to this who actually, like we say in our description, kind of our podcast motto is decide, commit, and then act. So if you decide by listening to this, or even prior to listening to this, that you want to make a change in your life with specifically your nutrition as we're talking today, then you want to commit to it, then act. And when you act, that's when you try to figure out what works best for your body. Some people might be able to manage, what is that goat milk you said you?
Yeah, I like, I do implement dairy in my
diet. But not like the,
not like Highlands milk or something
like that. Highlands, like 2%.
Milk.
Okay.
Goat milk, raw cheeses.
Some people might not be able to do that.
Right.
And some people like you can obviously do it. Some people might be able to manage more wheat or gluten. Some people might not want any gluten. Some people might just hate the taste of certain things, and it's just not realistic for them to do in an everyday diet. So for you, you think you're a combination of like, what was this you said, paleo and what, carnivore?
I sort of do a modern paleo approach to my nutrition, but I lean more on the side of keto carnivore.
Oh, okay.
I do high fat, high protein. I typically consume less than 100 carbs a day, 100 grams of carbs. I've been doing this for probably the past month or so, and I feel pretty good. And I think that's probably a combination of lowering the carbs and the fats. I think that's a big issue in today's world, is people are consuming way too much carbohydrate and fats at the same time.
Especially if it's a bad carbohydrate.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if it's a bad carbohydrate. I think your body kind of prefers one or the other.
But you weren't. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's all I wanted to say. So I mean, I do really well with high fat, high protein. I think protein is, I think it's definitely one of the most important nutrients. You need to be really concerned about how much protein you're getting on a daily basis and from what sources you're getting that protein from. I personally prefer animal products. I know some people don't. But anyways,
I think regards to any kind of protein, whether it's plant-based or animal-based protein, or any food in general, we were talking about how our produce in this country now is so watered down, the nutrient density is so messed up. So the point is, I think you really want to pride yourself on making sure you have quality ingredients. Now, obviously, it's going to be cheaper to get super crappy frozen blueberries compared to like a healthy, fresh half quarter
Right.
blueberries. But
That might be a good option for somebody.
exactly. But what Taylor and I, what you and I have always talked about, you're either gonna make time for your health and wellness now, you're gonna have to make time for your cancer and disease and illness later.
Health is wealth.
So, if you really think it's not worth spending an extra 50 cents, $1.52 on an item over another one, that's your choice. Obviously, we're not here to tell anyone what to do. But at the end of the day, there is a reward to priding yourself on quality ingredients. Like Taylor, I know, isn't going to go just to a standard. Like here in Kansas City, we have Price Chopper, in-house, like the generic grocery stores. Out in California, I lived for 7 years, they have Ralph's and Vaughn's. If you go there, that's just kind of like the run-of-the-mill, like chicken breast or turkey or
Right.
even like beef. Whereas, where do you go for your specific meat products? Just as an example, real quick.
Well, I do. So for a lot of my meat now,
'Cause I actually have no idea.
I like this company. Actually, I got them on Instagram. They're really cool. I tag them a lot. It's Thousand Hills is the brand. They're 100% grass-fed, regenerative agriculture farm. Their meat is fucking delicious, and it's really high quality. It's 100% grass-fed. It's not grain-fed, grass-finished. It's 100% grass-fed.
That's
So,
good. That's a good point.
yeah. So, anyways, I go to natural grocers for that, but I do eat regular beef as well. I'll go get my steaks at Hy-Vee or whatever. I go to Sprouts to get a lot of my stuff.
Sprouts
as well.
is great.
So you kind of pick and choose.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a meat product from even a Price Chopper or a Hen House, which is not necessarily the highest quality you can get, that's still better than getting a meat product that's full of grease at a fast food place.
Oh, way better.
Or for something that's fried or deep fried. Like,
That's
I don't care if you have Wagyu beef. If you deep fry it, it's still,
Yeah, no.
I mean, yes, it's high quality, but then you just crap all over it with a deep fried part, or just the super greasy, or maybe they have a really like super unhealthy fatty butter they cook with it. So I think that's really interesting. So
Yeah.
Thousand Oaks, you said?
At Thousand Hills.
Thousand Hills, you hear that?
You
Shout
don't have
out.
to sponsor us. But I like your product. I like your beef.
You don't have to do
Anyways.
anything, but we love you.
Anyways, yeah, that's some
So, but
transition into.
yeah. So really quick though, you said in the last month you basically been kind of eating this certain way, but it really wasn't, because I've known the way your nutrition has been for a long time. It really wasn't drastically different like
No.
last year.
No.
You did make some changes, but basically, because I don't know, people might get discouraged if they hear like, oh, he's only been doing this a month. What is he? Well, his diet
No.
2 months ago
No.
was not that different.
So like
explain
I said,
that
yeah.
real quick.
Yeah, so like I said, you want to kind of do some self-experimentation. You want to take things out, put things in, and typically those things you take out and put in are going to be small things, right? And I do implement fruits and vegetables in my diet. I know people get way out of whack when I say I don't eat a lot of fruits and vegetables because my diet is mostly animal products. But no, I do put them in. I do take them out. I see how I feel. It's a lot of self-experimentation, and I'm doing that since about 2011. So, yeah.
9 years. I mean, it's 2020 in a couple weeks, So damn, okay. Yeah.
Does that work for everybody? No, it does not work for everybody. In this episode, we're definitely going to talk a lot about beginners and people who are they don't know where to go with their nutrition and they need some help. So we're going to talk about that for sure.
Okay, so you said obviously it doesn't, the specific way that your basically standard breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks aren't necessarily like ideal for everyone. But then again, aspects of it are, and let's just lay just be basic here.
Mhm.
What doesn't work for anyone's health is things in a wrapper, fast food restaurants,
100%.
things with chemical ingredients you can't pronounce.
Yeah.
Take a hike, dude. Get out of here. It's like, so that's what definitely doesn't work. I mean, there might be some people out there who maybe work for some sort of, like there's a billion kind of bars. You go to any gas station or grocery store, there's 30 different brands of bars that you can choose from.
Yeah.
About 99% of them are just full of processed crap, and it's just not that beneficial for you in the long run when it comes to someone who wants to prioritize their health, which is what this podcast is all about. So like Taylor said, the specific things that he does and the way he decides to eat and what he drinks and consumes isn't necessarily ideal for every human, but there are definitely aspects of it that are just basics that everyone should follow if you're going to prioritize your health.
Yeah.
Just because some people might not understand. It might be confusing if we always say oh, this isn't for everyone. Well, what's definitely not for anyone is processed junk. And if you don't know what processed junk means, anything in a wrapper or that has ingredients you can't pronounce.
Exactly. I think well said.
Right.
Stuff in a wrapper. So, candy, potato chips, all that stuff. Fast food, ice cream, junk like that. There's another big one is industrial seed oil. So stuff like canola oil.
Any of those hydrogenated oils. Oh,
and even you can run into issues.
Clog your arteries. There was a topic. Who was it who said? There's multiple people have said this and studied it. Dr. T. Colin Campbell and then Ben Greenfield also talked about it. Hydrogenated oils. This isn't a recent thing that he talked about, but in his content in the past, he's talked about hydrogenated oils and just oils in general. How'd you say that? How'd you call them?
Industrial seed oils.
Industrial seed oils. Yeah. So there's so many other experts and people who spend most of their time focusing on this stuff. So we're not just spitballing our biased opinion here, but yes, what you said was great.
I was just listening to a podcast, Ben Greenfield's recent podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
And he was talking about how a lot of the fruits and vegetables that are in your supermarket are laden with compounds like methylcyclopropene, which is basically a growth factor that they kind of spray on, I guess, to fruits that slow the ripening process by 10 months. So an apple that's in your local Price Chopper could have been sitting there or could have been in a truck for like 10 months. It's really bizarre. We talked about the soil a little bit, mineral depletion.
And that is, it's not just here in America too, it's everywhere. And it's interesting how there's a lot of animals that eat a herbivore diet, but they're consumed as a meat product by humans. So even the animals who eat only like grass or whatever, even those crops and grasses that eat, that's even tainted a little bit.
Right.
So it's very interesting. How would you, for people who don't know who Ben Greenfield is, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, what is specific? If you go to Ben Greenfield, was it Ben Greenfield Fitness, his social media stuff? So Ben Greenfield, Greenfield, just like it sounds, Ben Greenfield.
Because I get definitely a portion of my nutritional research from him.
Yeah,
he dives into the actual studies and scientific literature on this stuff.
He's a longevity expert. He's been on TED Talks. He's been on just about every major podcast on the planet. He was just on Joe Rogan recently. Mm-hmm. He's not just some snake oil salesman. He knows what he's talking about. He does his due diligence. And that's what we try to pride ourselves in. I know Taylor and I, that's one thing we talked about last week with our fitness, is how we've changed our fitness routine throughout the years because we're not so narrow-minded and thinking, okay, this person said that, or this makes me get bigger and stronger, so this is the only way to do things. Taylor and I have always been learning new things about nutrition. Like what you just talked about with the vegetables. 6 weeks ago, you and I didn't even cross our minds.
Yeah.
So we're always trying to learn and develop our knowledge base and not just come up with biased opinions because we think people who eat a certain way are weird.
Right.
That's just dumb. So
there's lots of little nitpicky stuff you can get into with
correct
vegetables and pesticides and lower nutrient quality and your fruits and vegetables now and all that stuff. But we're not going to talk about that so much on today's episode. We're going to talk about how people, beginners specifically, can implement healthier food choices into their lives. And
so is there anything else you want to add for you? And I'll just quickly jump into kind of what I've been doing most of my nutritional life.
Like I said, most of what I've been doing, I do a lot of self-experimentation. I do,
which is key,
higher fat, higher protein. That works for me. I drink bone broth, a lot of animal products for me. Try to get really quality meats. I do eat organ meats. I do eat liver and kidney and heart and all that stuff. Shocker. Those are actually really good for you.
To the general public, the general person might be like, what the hell, dude?
That's fucking gross.
And I don't eat that regularly like Taylor, but it's not as unheard of as you might think.
It's really not.
And there's tons of benefits to it, just nutritionally.
Indigenous cultures for thousands and thousands of years eat the entirety of the animal that they kill. It's hard for us to do that in today's society, of course, but that's just the fact of the matter. I do want to talk about what man actually ate in the Paleo era and the Pleistocene era. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but I'm gonna hand it over to Jack.
Yeah, so basically, like you said, Taylor, I up until I really just ate whenever I was hungry, and I ate what was ever put in front of me up until my sophomore year, or maybe just leading into my sophomore year, maybe the summer between freshman year in high school and sophomore year in high school. I really don't know what. I don't remember a specific thing that I just remember. I remember two things specifically that kind of sparked my interest a little bit. Was one, I realized how every guy, all my friends, their dads were overweight and fat.
Yeah.
Dad bods, hashtag dad bods. Except for one of my friends. I don't need to name the name, but his dad, he was on a soccer team that I was playing with for years growing up, and this friend of mine went to Blue Valley North High School here in Kansas City, but his dad would be running laps and doing air squats and push-ups during our soccer practices. You know, the other dads would be like sitting there, you know, sipping a beer or something, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I just remember thinking, all right, his dad is eating a certain way and he looks healthy and like a superhero, and my dad and all the other dads are, you know, any kind of adult male. I mean, this is America, you know, it's a very overweight, unhealthy country to an extent. So that kind of got me thinking, and then the main thing too was, it just kind of came on me. You know how we talked about last week how you and I didn't think when we were in first grade, like, oh, we're gonna fall in love with fitness. It just happened. Yeah. So for me, I made that connection just at a soccer practice over the summer, and then I just started thinking like, all right, you know, because I was really big into sports, and I started thinking like, what do these guys, I find it hard to believe that these guys, NFL, NBA, soccer players, bodybuilders, anything, eat 3 bags of Otis Spunkmeyer cookies for lunch every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
I find it very hard to believe.
Yeah.
So for me, up until sophomore year, standard American diet for any kind of kid whose parents don't necessarily have a knowledge base in nutrition. And then I've been a little bit all over the place, and I've actually almost been, you know, the polar opposite of Taylor off and on for most of from sophomore year up until now. We're the same age, we're 25, but, and I think that's what's super fascinating about this podcast episode today is because if you and I ate the same exact way, it'd be almost kind of boring to an extent for the listener, and also it might seem like we both don't even fathom the other side of things.
Right.
So, for a while when I was a sophomore in high school, I did completely plant-based, 100% plant-based, and I don't say vegan because I'm sure my soccer cleats had leather or something, you know. For those of you that don't know, vegan is technically like no animal products at all, even in your clothing, apparel, your, you know, anything you wear. The point is, I ate a plant-based diet. I didn't keep track of all the other stuff, and I did notice a big improvement for that. Then I wasn't eating, you know, going from eating a lot of calories, and because I would be working out, you know, running all the time, playing sports, I wasn't getting enough through because I was super strict. I was basically raw too, which without even thinking about it, I just was. I wasn't eating enough calories. I started losing a bunch of weight, and then I changed, probably slowly started incorporating more and more calories. For me, it's not necessarily like a super health food, superfood, but including more fats in the sense of like nut butters, but healthy. Not like if you go to right now Jif, they have hydrogenated oils, and they have sugar in there. So if you can get any kind of nut butter that's almond, cashew, or peanut butter that's natural, you know, and it's not like perfectly soft and luscious because it's not mixed with a bunch of oils and stuff. So I started including nut butters, avocados, super high calorie dense and high fat. I started eating more too. I was eating breakfast snack, lunch snack, dinner snack. So slowly I started increasing the calories, but I was still pretty much plant-based. And then when I got to college, I went basically pescatarian, I think, for like 3 months. I was super all over the place. So I did, because it's San Diego, you know, right by the ocean, it had the best fish quality. I mean, are you kidding me, dude? I'd have fish tacos that were just caught that morning. Like, come on, dude. So I basically, I think it was about 3 months where I did still no dairy and no animal products and no eggs, but tons of fruits and vegetables, and then fish was my animal source, my protein source, and I still had plant-based protein sources and stuff. And then after that, I started including eggs and higher quality meat, meaning I focused on, for me, I just never liked red meat. There's nothing wrong with it. Even as a kid, I remember we'd have steak dinner sometimes, and I just didn't like the way I felt for at least a day after that. I don't know. I'm sure I could get through it now and get over it. I mean, I know I could, but I didn't really jump into that. I started eating a lot of ground turkey. Fat-wise, for me, I always did like a 93.7 on when I would consume meat regularly. If you choose, like, what's your specific?
Well,
if you could choose.
Now I eat high fat. Like my favorite steaks are ribeyes, New York strips. I do 80-20.
All that marbling.
Yep, I do 80-20 beef.
80-20. Okay.
I think a lot of the there really is no actual research on animal fat being bad for you. There just isn't. And I think animal fat is really good for you. And not only is it good for you, but our ancestors have been consuming that stuff for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. I mean,
and they weren't consuming saturated fat and processed hydrogenated fat. They're consuming animal fat.
Well, I mean, animal fat, but saturated fat from animal
correct,
fat.
Correct, but not like the
not like hydrogenated fat from.
Correct, or just man-made butter and stuff. Yeah, peanut oil, dude.
Yeah.
So the point is, what he's talking about specifically is animal fat.
Trans fats, that's completely
man-made.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was thinking of, not saturated fat, trans fats. I blew it, sorry about that.
Thankfully, I think the FDA has completely eradicated trans fats from all foods at this point. That's completely man-made fat.
Be careful though, because something that says trans fat-free or fat-free is going to have, and it still tastes really sweet or really good, and it's in a box or something or in a wrapper, it's going to increase in something else. So some things that are fat-free are going to increase their sugar content, so they'll make up for it so much. So be careful on that. But yeah, so you said 80-20. If you could choose, if you weren't getting a steak or something that wasn't specific about the fat content, you would do 80-20.
I do 80-20.
Pretty much.
When I get like 1,000 Hills, I do that.
Okay,
I do 80-20.
awesome. Yeah, so for me, I did anywhere from 85-15 or 93-7. I probably would have been better for me to go 80-20 with my activity. You know, Tara and I talked about last week, we were consistently working out 6-7 days a week, sometimes 2 and 3 days. So the more fat and calories is probably better for us. So I did that for about 1.5 to 2 years. Was still no dairy, but I did as many fruits and vegetables as I could. I did every morning. I would have eggs, and I would have white basmati rice. It was so filling, and also it was a lot of good calories and just fat and protein all in there. So I'd wake up and have 7 cracked eggs and an entire container of the basmati rice, frozen though. So I just microwave it real quick, and I mix the rice with the eggs, scrambled eggs, and just put seasoning in there with a little spinach. Oh, dude! And I remember I did that because Brian Miller, I'll have to tag him in this. Shout out to Brian Miller. He was a coach at Cross from Victus out in San Diego, and he's a fitness guru, and he was bulking, to say the least, at the time when I started changing my diet into more animal product, healthier animal product items. And I remember he would coach me in the mornings for some of my morning sessions, and he'd have a gigantic Tupperware container, like huge, like the size of this computer, of mixed up, like, I don't know how many eggs, a lot of scrambled eggs and white basmati rice, and you'd just be eating it throughout the whole training session, coaching. And he put on some mass, dude. Oh my, but like good mass. He didn't like dirty bulk, you know?
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I pretty much did that up until it's almost 2020. So middle of 2017, for whatever reason, I don't really remember the exact reason why. I went back to a 95% of the time plant-based. If I would eat out, like, you know, we would go to a nice steakhouse or something, I wouldn't be that guy who's like, oh, give me a side of asparagus and I don't need anything else, you know, like. So, and the key for me, and the key for you too, is we're not so strict that we're going to lose our minds if we eat something that's not necessarily in our guidelines as healthy. So for me, for a while in high school, my sophomore year in high school, when I first started going vegan, I would have like a little mental breakdown if I had like something unhealthy, which is in itself not healthy to do that. You gotta have
something to look forward to too.
Correct, yeah. I mean, Taylor and I eat a very clean diet, and when we say clean, meaning nothing from a wrapper man-made, to an extent. Every once in a while.
I had a Quest cookie today.
There you go. So, yeah, and what did I had something else. What did I have? You know, the point is, we're not 100% of the time. We give ourselves a little wiggle room, because at the end of the day,
people are like, oh, fucking Quest cookie, why don't you have a cupcake, bro?
I know, they're like, oh, you're really cheating, Taylor. At the end of the day, something I always thought about throughout the last couple of years is no one got fat off of eating one pint of ice cream and one burger and fries. It's eating it consistently day after day. Right. That's what got you fat. So it's not going to be that detrimental to your health. It's not going to be detrimental to your health at all. If every once in a while, by every once in a while, we don't mean like a little bit every night. For me, I will not be as strict, or sometimes it just, I have no choice. Sometimes in a bind and in a hurry, or I'm at a place, like I was at Shake Shack yesterday with this kid I mentor and a couple of his other buddies, and I had the shakes, dude. I was so hungry, and I don't really know, the plant-based burger didn't look very good, so I got a turkey burger there and like some sweet potato fries and stuff.
What is it?
Yes, last night.
Oh yeah.
Shake Shack, and like
that plant-based food.
Yeah, I know. That stuff is probably, and plus it looked bad. So, but the point is, like, there, you know, I could have starved, or I could have just ate and just been like, all right, whatever. So the point is, you and I, Taylor and I, are not strict to a fault. Like, we're not 100% of the time. It's too serious. Like, don't take your life that seriously in general. You know,
I'm not really counting my macros or anything.
No.
I eyeball how much protein and fat I'm getting in a day, and other than that, it's just quality of nutrients. That's really
exactly.
Quality food.
And some people weigh and measure their food. Some people want to count their macros and even their micronutrient to an extent. Some people, like Taylor and I've only ever made sure I do generalization. So when I have a general circle plate of food, I make sure I have always a carb, a fat, and a protein on my 3 meals a day. And I don't, you know, maybe I'm a little over or under one day to the next on certain macronutrients. And what do you mean? Explain real quick for people who might not know at all what we say by macronutrients. What are the macronutrients we're talking about?
Yeah, so I mean, the major macronutrients people think about when they think macronutrients are carbohydrates, fat, protein. Those are the big ones, right? Fiber is kind of excluded from that argument. And then, of course, there's sugars as well, which are, you know, it's neither here nor there right now. But carbohydrates, fat, and protein are the 3 big macronutrients.
So some people, you might listen to other podcasts or see other people, maybe you know other people who measure those or monitor those strictly. I've never necessarily done that, and I've seen amazing results. It can be beneficial and like we said, nothing is 100% the way everyone should do it. But yeah, I mean, and that's the theme here, I guess, with Taylor's nutritional journey throughout his life and mine as well, as we have been done our best, but we haven't been so strict about it that if we do go off kilt a little bit, we don't panic and then we don't let one nutritional mistake turn into another. I'm not sure where that is.
Oh, it's not for 30 minutes.
Oh, that's weird.
It's fucking weird. What the hell?
Eating one pint of ice cream and one burger and fries. It's eating it consistently day after day. That's what got you fat. So it's not going to be that detrimental. That wasn't that far long ago, though. Alright, we're going to pause this video. We'll link it, or maybe not. Hold on. Every night. For me, I will not be as strict, or sometimes it just, that was literally like 4 minutes ago. That's weird. We only did 30 minutes. Maybe that's all Anchor can do.
Alright, you ready?
Yeah, we'll keep going.
Cool.
All right, cool. So basically, the people who listen to this video, the recording of the microphone and the audio paused for about 4 minutes there. But as we were saying, the people who might only be listening to this, Taylor and I have never been 100% strict, nor do I think anyone should, because that's a very stressful way to live. You just work with what you got. Since I went back to a plant-based diet in the middle of 2017, I've done as well as I could, as often as I could. If I had an option, I'll eat a whole food plant-based diet with some healthy animal protein and animal fats in there. But if I'm in a bind and I'm with a group of people at, you know, an ice cream shop with 10 friends, I don't want to be that guy necessarily. I mean, you could, but I also just whatever, you know, it's not going to kill you one time every couple months here and there.
And I think the biggest thing is if you go off track on your diet, just get right back on track.
Get back on the horse quickly.
That's it.
Yeah.
You're fine. You don't have to beat yourself up. Don't let that one, I guess, cheat meal you know?
Yeah.
I don't like that term, but
Or a
that
mistake.
one-
I don't like that either.
Yeah, that one, whatever you want to refer to it as. Don't let that thing totally derail your progress. Rather, you don't want to let that one thing derail your progress. You want to get right back on that discipline.
And we'll talk about this that kind of general category in the mental health episode, which is next week. In regards to what Taylor was saying is, you know, it's like in sports, in life, in your nutrition, in your fitness, the last thing you should do is let one mistake lead to another, And the way you do that is if you make a mistake or go off of your plan, or in nutrition like we're talking about today, if you eat something that you might think is considered unhealthy or that's not recognized as unhealthy, don't dwell on it and beat yourself up about it to the point where you make another one, and all of a sudden you're going down this rabbit hole of 7 days in a row with Krispy Kreme, and then you're kind of like back to square one. So short-term memory loss with not sticking to the plan, failures, mistakes, anything like that. So I guess basically one more thing to sum up my nutritional journey is, so it's 2017, went back to like 90% of the time having a plant-based meal. And then I got chronically sick, which is kind of what I talked about a little bit last week with my fitness journey. Back in September 2017, up until still now, I'm still dealing with it. I'm obviously way healthier now. I'm not in the hospital like I was most of 2018, but my diet was all whack when I was in the hospital in 2018 for over 300 days, and the hospital food, let's just say it's not healthy. I mean, even the salads, first of all, it's not filling, and you would have such a heyday looking at the menu there.
Yeah.
It's unreal. I walked through, when I was healthy enough to walk around a little bit, I was in the ICU multiple times, and there'd be someone who just got like a heart surgery or a heart transplant, and a menu option for them to choose is fried chicken.
That's horrible.
Like what? Like I almost passed out and died right there, dude. I was shocked.
You know what I fucking hate?
Oh my god.
You know what I hate too? Speaking of fried chicken, I hate kids menus. I fucking hate kids menus. You look at a kids menu
That's
at a
actually really
restaurant,
funny.
and it's like chicken nuggets, cheese pizza. It's like nothing healthy, nothing good for a kid.
Nothing that would benefit. Yeah, exactly.
And why is that? Why are those things on the menu?
I think it's pretty funny.
I think it's because of just bullshit advertising, modern culture, and then parents not enforcing healthy nutrition.
And also, that might be some of the similar stuff. A lot of times it's the same stuff the parents are eating, but just the parents are eating a bigger portion.
Right.
But that would be a super funny like little bit for comedy, is talking about kids menus, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my lord, that's so
It's
true.
I mean,
I challenge anyone out there, and I'll post this on all my social media as well, to find me a kids menu besides a plant-based restaurant. That doesn't count. A superfood plant-based restaurant, like there's a restaurant down the street called Enjoy Pure Food. It's like 70% of it's probably plant-based. The rest has like high-quality fish and lean meats. That might have a healthy kids menu. In fact, I know it does. But besides that, go to any restaurant, any country club, any place that has food. Find me a healthy kids menu. Healthy meaning fruits and vegetables, just basics, fruits and vegetables. Besides like pasta sauce or pizza sauce in a pizza, that doesn't count, obviously. But that's so funny. It's so true, dude. So,
and speaking of kids, I just thought of this.
Yeah, go for it.
I was talking to my mom's neighbor the other day. It's this older lady. Her grandson is this young kid. I can't remember. She said he was 6 or 12. Anyways, so the kid he had 3 F's on his report card, and so of course the principal or whoever, teacher was like, "Yo, you should get him, diagnosed for whatever, So they took him to the doctor, and of course he tested for ADD or ADHD, and of course
let's throw chemicals and meds at him.
Boom! That's the answer to this kid's problem. This kid who can't sit still in class. The answer, of course, is to load him up with ADHD pills. Of course.
Medicate him.
So
medication.
And she was like pro giving this kid this medication. I'm like, dude, like I'm no parent.
to the old lady, dude.
I really want to tell her. I was just kind of like, yeah.
It sucks when you have to be nice to a bigger person because that's the type of person probably, I'm assuming, this is a huge judgment. I'm assuming that lady, the elderly lady,
she's nice.
Probably wouldn't understand where you're coming from and what you're even saying if you disagree with the whole let's medicate this 12-year-old or 6-year-old kid. So go ahead.
So that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Podcast. All right.
Yeah. But that would be a really interesting episode for nutrition. Is we could talk mainly about teenagers and under. So teenagers 19 and under, kind of what is widely known as the best way to go, or the best kind of general decisions to go when it comes to nutrition. What we should have done better, or what we did do and it worked. And then maybe we can talk about just adults after that, or some sort of other categories. But the point is, so yeah, with the last thing I was going to say with my nutrition is the past probably 3 months I've started working with a holistic nutritionist and stuff, and this lady specializes in treating people with chronic illnesses. I am rare in the sense that not everyone listening to this, or not many 25-year-olds have a very chronic illness. So
Why don't you touch on that briefly? I'm sure we can touch on that.
Yeah, we'll get into it. So basically,
episode,
I have stage 3 chronic kidney disease. So stage 3B. Yeah, I was born with it, but it's gotten worse over the years. Stage 3B. There's 2 parts of stage 3. 3A is a little bit less intense than stage 3B, and then there's stage 4, which means you're pretty much screwed, and stage 5 means you're really screwed. You need dialysis. So I'm on stage 3B. Because my kidney function, I'm on stage 3B, CKD. That means my kidney function is not that great. It's luckily stable now since I've started eating this certain way and excluding certain things from my diet, which I'll get into in about 5 seconds. But yeah, I mean, I have, one big ureter now. I have a brand new bladder. I had 12 total surgeries in the last 20 months, which are in regards to my kidneys, my ureter, my bladder. And then 12 other procedures. So I guess if you guys want to get technical procedures, I called everything I had that I didn't have to stay the night for, that I went under anesthesia for, I consider those procedures. Like if you go in for a quick hour under anesthesia and they do a surgery, but I don't have to stay the night, I always consider that a procedure for me. There's probably actual facts about that. And then the surgeries are when I had to stay in the hospital multiple nights. Some of my surgeries were 12 hours long. So the point is, I was very chronically sick. I had chronic infections, chronic sepsis. I had septic shock 3 times, which kills people more often than not. And I had chronic infections. My kidney function was bad. So I had the only thing I could control, besides trying all this more medication, which I don't want to get into that right now, was what I ate and what I drank. So finally, one of my KU Med doctors recommended this lady. Her name is Jen, and I want to get permission from her before I give her actual name, and we can give her a shout out definitely in the next episode. But she was an ICU nurse at Children's Mercy for a while, and then she went back to school to get certified and get her master's and all this other nutrition, dietitian, health coaching, all this kind of stuff, and she can touch more on it. Maybe we can have her as a guest sometime. She would love it.
I'd love to.
She's local. But basically for the last 3 months, I've had no dairy, no gluten, and no soy. And I think that's probably not a bad idea for most people. Obviously, in dairy, when Taylor says he consumes dairy, just explain one more time the quality that you're consuming.
So
you're not
the
eating
dairy that I consume is very specific. Very specific. I like raw goat's milk. I like raw cheeses, stuff like that. I mean, those when you consume it when it's I do non-homogenized goat milk.
So you don't do the Go-Gurts and the Yoplait yogurt?
Absolutely not. when I do Greek yogurt, I do full-fat Greek yogurt when you do that.
Sugar-free, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Or lightly sweetened maybe at the worst.
You want to get your quality dairy if you're going to do dairy, absolutely. And make sure you can tolerate it, of course.
And so, like Taylor said for that, some people can obviously tolerate that, some people might not. For me, I know what's working for me right now, what's keeping me out of the hospital is absolutely no dairy, absolutely no sugar, absolutely no soy, and absolutely no gluten. I've never excluded gluten in my entire life until starting 3 weeks ago. And I don't feel like I have a gluten intolerance. I don't even know what the details of that are, but I've noticed improvements excluding all 4 of those things. No processed, white table sugar, white sugar, no soy, no dairy, and no gluten. And I feel like gluten might be one of the biggest things. My skin's like more. People tell me when I post a video, like my family or close friends will say, "Oh, your skin looks brighter, more vibrant." I don't feel as puffy and water. Like with water weight and stuff. I just feel better. Obviously, it probably has something to do with the soy, the dairy, and the sugar as well. But basically, I can get into more detail. But I've basically been eating pretty much a whole food plant-based diet for the past 3 weeks, excluding those 4 things, and that has helped me in the spot where I'm at now. Will I do that forever? Probably not. But with someone who's in a spot like me or anyone else out there, who has really bad diabetes, a disease, a cancer. This lady, and there's hundreds of other doctors out there that have these specialty nutritional programs for people who are in a real bind. This is not necessarily a longevity thing. It's not something I'm going to be doing forever. It's not like when I get done with it, I'm going to start eating ice cream every day. I've always been healthy, but I know for where I'm at now physically, with someone who has a chronic illness, chronic pain, chronic infections, chronic surgeries, what I'm doing right now is working. And when I do start to include animal products again, it will be along the lines of what Taylor was saying. So, some high quality organ meats, some high quality lean meats, some animal fat, which will always help because I'm trying to gain weight again. Because in an 18-month span, I went from 260 to 192.
Yeah.
And I'm 6'5", so I'm up to 233 right now. But there's healthy and good fats you can include in your diet to help if you are trying to bulk or even maintain. And carb-wise, I'm eating a lot of carbs right now because that's fruit and vegetables for you for the most part. But I will lower that eventually and up a little bit more of the protein and up a little bit more of the fat. So Taylor, what were you saying? Basically, you have mainly less carbs and fat than before, and more of a healthier protein animal source.
Yeah. So my personal diet is I consume high fat, high protein,
and less carbohydrate.
Way lower carbohydrate. Okay. I think I'm going to kind of get into a little bit of not really a soapbox, but I think for certain people, I think they really can benefit from some carbohydrate. And I'm not talking about processed carbohydrates. You can't out-train a bad diet. It will catch up with you at some point.
Or you can't outlive a bad diet.
Oh, there you go. It will catch up to you at some point. I don't care what anybody says about that.
Do you want to give a couple examples of processed carbs?
Besides
the obvious wrapper food,
So
food.
So bread is a huge one. It's a huge problem.
Pretty much
especially
any bread
in the United States,
right?
Yeah, any bread, really. I mean,
there's a couple breads out there like that are in the frozen or refrigerated section, but
you
besides
might be able to get away with some sprouted grain bread, but
in general,
that's a great place to start for a lot of people, is to kind of eliminate gluten in its entirety from your diet.
Yeah, and I say gluten free, but I still there's tons of gluten free pastas out there I'll eat frequently. If you're craving that crunch, there's healthier options. We can name some brands later, but there's healthier options of there's gluten-free chips, gluten-free crackers, you name it. So it's not like we're telling you to lose everything that you like about carbs, but there's other versions besides the processed carbs. So continue.
I think carbs, you got to be real specific. If you're an athlete, if you're a high-level athlete, I know guys like I'll use Zach Bitter, for example. He's an ultramarathon runner. He is primarily eating a carnivorous diet, but he does include a little bit of carbohydrates in the form of glucose, complex carbohydrates, stuff like that on some of his high-end races. I think carbohydrates can be beneficial for some people, as long as you're not consuming high-fat, high-carb, processed sugars and shit like that.
And then sitting on your butt all day.
You got to be real specific. The body prefers one type of either fat or carbohydrate, whichever one you're going to choose. I think for stuff like bodybuilding, I think people see a lot of results obviously from carbohydrates. That's kind of a duh.
I think it's calorie dense too. And it puts on bulk. It bulks you. It adds mass, and good mass if you're eating the quality carbs.
You got to be specific for what your goals are.
Correct.
And I think if we're talking about people in general wanting to get healthier, I think possibly lowering your carbohydrate intake, or at least switching to higher quality carbohydrates. So what's a high quality carbohydrate if you're going to consume carbohydrate? Well, roots and tubers, stuff like beets, sweet potatoes, stuff that drifts into the bloodstream a little bit slower than something like
ice cream cones every day. They're a healing food.
Something like an ice cream cone or something like
or just a white Sara Lee bread or something.
Right.
Nothing like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. What about rice? Do you include rice in your diet every once in a while?
Right now, no, I don't. But I do think white rice can play a role. However,
you can pick your spots with it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I know when I've been trying to gain weight, white long grain rice or white basmati rice has been big. And people might think, oh, why no white pasta but no white rice? We can get into the details of that later, but
pasta is not good for you.
Correct. And there's gluten free. There's there's so many different kinds of pasta that aren't the processed carb pasta. That does nothing for you. It's so nutrient. It's just a filler calorie. It doesn't have any nutrients in it. Just
let me be specific.
Go ahead.
American pasta is not good for you.
So all right. So all right, continue. Sorry. I went off on a tangent there.
Anyway, so I was talking about carbohydrates and fats and stuff like that. I kind of want to talk about some of the major diets that are out there today.
Let's do that.
And I kind of want to break them down. I just want to touch on them a little bit. I don't want to get into too much scientific detail with this stuff because there are far better sources out there if you really want to nitpick scientific studies and stuff like that. So, first, I guess the diet I've been on, and the term diet, it's the way I eat. It's my lifestyle. It's not, I don't consider it like I have to do this. It's just the way I like to eat.
Yeah.
It's a good way to think about your nutrition. And that's a good way for the average Joe to think about nutrition. The average person is eating a lot of junk, a lot of stuff that comes out of a wrapper, Oreos and a Mountain Dew at night.
And if they're being honest with themselves, a lot of stuff they know isn't good for them. They just, it's just too easy or tastes too good. They just don't necessarily care right now.
Right.
And when like you said with the diet thing, I don't like using that word either. So I like to think to myself, or when I talk to people about their nutrition, is, not what diet you're on. What do you eat nutritionally to supplement your lifestyle?
Right.
Because like you said, it's a lifestyle. It's not a diet, because diets you end up going off of.
Yeah. So personally, for most people, I'm going to kind of merge beginners that want to get a little healthier and implement better quality nutrition into their lifestyles. I'm going to merge that with kind of a couple dietary, popular diets that are out there right now. So
go for it.
First off, I think more of I call it modern paleo, because literally all the fruits and vegetables that are in your local supermarket, none of them existed in the Paleo and Pleistocene eras. None of them existed in that era. A potato back then was probably the size of a peanut. We didn't have a lot of things like kale. A lot of this stuff is completely genetically, people say stuff's not genetically modified. Literally everything is genetically modified. It just is. There's no way. A strawberry is not the same as a strawberry. You don't even know if a strawberry existed back in 15,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago.
Let alone the stuff that's on the center aisles of the grocery store.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
You know what I mean? So not only produce and other things, everything, but especially the freaking stuff that's
100%.
So
I'm not going to get into that too specific.
Yeah.
Because I do think
and
that
I guess,
a lot of people can benefit from a modern paleo approach to their nutrition.
And how would you explain that to someone who might not even ever heard of paleo before?
So paleo diet has been around for a long time. I think a guy named Rob Wolf, who's an amazing, super knowledgeable person.
Did he make it mainstream?
He kind of really introduced the paleo diet with a book called The Paleo Solution. He put that out there because he had a lot of gut issues with gluten, things along those lines.
Skin.
Boom. So paleo diet is fruits and vegetables, more vegetables than fruits.
Yep.
And that's kind of CrossFit. They kind of coined the some fruit, little starch, no sugar mentality. That's kind of paleo in a lot of sense. So you're a lot of vegetables, high quality protein sources from animal sources typically, some nuts and seeds, but not a whole lot. Again, the nuts and seeds of today's age, not the same as the nuts and seeds from...
Not even close.
Not even remotely close. So...
Which is saying you don't have to avoid them 100%, but you shouldn't rely on them solely.
Right, exactly.
And then, so that's basic paleo. What would you say modern paleo is compared to what someone might think of just paleo?
Right.
What do you mean by modern paleo?
I mean modern paleo because I mean, like I said, the fruits and vegetables of today's era are completely different than what they were. So modern paleo is just what's around today.
So right? 2019, 2020 paleo.
You go to your supermarket, what's there? You got carrots and kale and broccoli and broccolini and zucchini noodles, and you got in your meat section, in most stores, generically it's chicken, which I don't like chicken. I think it's a weak ass bird. But,
yeah. And plus, if you look at the chickens from even 50 years ago compared to the chickens now, oh, it's so gross how big and like steroid injected and hormone injected they are. Oh man, so we'll get into that later. But
dude, I was gonna say, I really made the switch recently to I've been getting those Vital Farms eggs,
Oh yeah.
The
Okay.
difference in color and nutrient profile to one of those free range, it's not just, you go to the, Sprouts or even Hy-Vee and it's like free range, cage free, but what they don't tell you is it free foraging? Do the birds have room to forage and eat shit off the ground and worms and whatnot? Because if they don't, then they're being fed a vegetarian diet, which means they're probably still being fed corn and grain and junk like that.
And
So I got these eggs.
Yeah.
So they're from Vital Farms is the company, and
Shout out.
we'll give them a shout out, I guess. And I had a package left in the fridge of regular like Sprouts cage-free eggs, and I cracked them next to each other, and the difference in color is insane. The Sprouts egg is like offset, gross yellow color.
It's like a pale yellow.
Yeah,
Pale
it's
yellow.
pale
Oh. All right. Go ahead.
So yeah.
So and compared to the Vital
the
egg,
Vital Farms is
Vital
it's
Farms
a
eggs,
dark orange color, and that's what you want.
which is the example of more nutrient density. Yeah. Okay. I'm just trying to clarify. For
Totally,
everyone.
yeah. Yeah, you want that dark. If you're gonna get eggs, and people look at the price on those and they're like, $7 for 12 eggs. What the fuck? Or 18
Whatever it
eggs.
is, yeah.
And it's like it's crazy. But the nutrient profile between a regular, Hy-Vee egg and like a Vital Farms egg is completely not. It's not the same.
You're
at
getting
all.
way more bang for
You're
your buck.
getting way more nutrients out of that Vital Farms egg.
I'd be curious if sometimes someone did a study like, if someone ate 6 eggs one day and 6 eggs the next day so 12 eggs in 2 days of the kind of standard grocery store eggs, and then 12 eggs in 2 days of the Vital Farms eggs.
Yeah.
What the difference is in just their nutrient absorption, nutrient density, and that would be super impactful for people to paint a better picture. Like, okay, you're paying half as much for these cheesy eggs, but you're not getting nearly as much from it.
Right.
So it's almost like you might as well spend a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
Go
So,
for it.
anyways, back to modern paleo. Fruits and vegetables, specifically berries. Those are very in line with what kind of modern indigenous tribes typically eat. Look at
I love wild blueberries.
wild
You
blueberries.
can go to
great.
Sprouts and get bags of frozen wild
Mhm.
blueberries. Oh, let's go!
Blueberries, that's what a lot of modern indigenous tribes forage. They forage for berries and things like that. So berries, your fruits,
What are some
wide
of the
variety of
common
vegetables.
What are some common vegetables you eat?
Common vegetables that I'll throw in every now and then to my own diet. I do some broccoli. I do spinach because it's sort of a low FODMAP vegetable, so I don't fart a lot basically when I eat that vegetable.
Plus, it's not something that's something that's been around for long enough.
Yeah, so stuff like that
Okay.
you want to throw in. I think for most people that are working out, they're doing CrossFit and stuff like that, I think more of a paleo approach is great. And just make sure that you're including some carbohydrates for your sport or whatever you're doing. So, and quality is important. What works for me probably not going to work for some other people. So I will not personally endorse the carnivore diet or something like that, even though that's typically what I personally follow. But what's also worked for me is a modern paleo approach. I felt amazing, and you're eating real foods. That's the biggest. That's really what I want to get to in this podcast is people, beginners that really want to make that switch to better health. Yes, you want to join a gym, like we said in our last podcast, but you also want to start making healthier food choices in your diet and eating real foods that are grown from the earth. Like I said, I like regenerative agriculture farms, so like grass-fed beef. If you can do that, if you can afford that. If you can't, regular beef's fine, but just putting real food into your body. If you can buy organic vegetables and fruits,
100% agree.
go for it.
I think that could be a good name of this episode is Real Food Talk. Like
Real
literally,
food
so
talk.
real living foods, and if it's not a real living food, aka animal product, then make sure it's fresh enough where it wasn't killed and hasn't been frozen for 2 years.
Yeah.
There's an interesting thing I listened to about the yogic culture, the yogic diet over in India. They never, the hardcore yogis, they don't eat anything, any animal product or anything more than 2 hours after it's been killed and cooked.
Yeah.
So they don't eat half their plate of, ribeye steak, and they don't put the rest in the fridge for leftovers for 3 days later. There's not as much, you don't get as much out of it. It's hard to digest. There's so many things we can talk about that. But I think real living foods, and if it's not living like plant-based food, then something that wasn't killed and slaughtered, or it's not been sitting on the shelf for 5 years or 5 days even. You want to consume it and eat it, especially after you cook it. So when you cook your food, I'm assuming you eat as much as you cook, to the most part.
I mean, typically
people will meal prep and stuff, which is fine.
Meal prep is important for sure.
For everyone's lifestyle. And the interesting thing I was thinking of is you said you won't push your way of nutrition on other people.
No.
Because no one else on this planet probably does the specific activities you do. And no one else has the specific chronic illness and the specific activities I do. If everyone did the same exact physical activity every day, then I really do think there could be more of a universally agreed with diet for human beings. But the fact of the matter is, a 61-year-old lady who sits behind a desk 8 hours a day would for sure be eating a different healthy real food diet than a 51-year-old man who does half marathons once a month. It's like it just depends on. There's a lot of factors that go into it.
Yeah, I mean, so universally,
real food.
People need real food. People need protein, number one. Building blocks for muscle tissue. You said elderly people have a different diet.
Yeah.
They absolutely need protein. So that's.
I think it'd be interesting sometime if we did a little thing for social media or Instagram or something, or even YouTube. Because I find it hard to believe that there's got to be 99% of people listening to this. If they stop listening, once they stop listening to this and they go to their kitchen, there's probably so many things that are in wrappers they could throw out right now.
Right.
I think it'd be kind of funny. Even my kitchen, I live, I live at home right now because I was in the hospital for the better part of 2 years, so I'm a homebody right now. But just looking at my pantry that's in my kitchen, it's unbelievable how many boxed foods there are. It's almost like, oh man. So that would not necessarily be ideal if someone wants to prioritize their health. And basically, I guess to sum this whole episode and this whole podcast up, this is all about prioritizing your health and focusing on the 3 main aspects of ultimate overall health, which is the fitness, today's the nutrition, and also the mental health. And like I'll say, and I'll let Taylor add on some stuff and finish, is basically like what we said on all of our descriptions, stuff of our podcast. This is all about deciding you want to make a change, committing to that change, and then acting on that change. And it might not happen quickly. Taylor said earlier, you said about taking things out and trying different things and excluding, to seeing what foods might not work with you, what foods might be causing bad side effects, what foods might be making you feel amazing. That's not going to happen in 2 nights. You got to take some time. Rome wasn't built in a day. Be blissfully dissatisfied, meaning be happy with where you're at and the progress you're making, but don't be so satisfied that you don't make any improvements.
Stay hungry.
Exactly. Be patient, but not so patient that you don't act. Like, be patient in the results, but be really constant in your action and your activity levels and trying to improve your overall health.
Absolutely.
Taylor, any last words you want to do?
Yeah, we hope you guys can take something from this episode. We're gonna have lots of these nutrition episodes. A lot of these episodes, we'll get more into detail on stuff.
Yeah, we're laying the foundation.
We're laying some foundations here. We hope you guys can really take something from this episode, implement it to your own lives, and get out there and crush it.
Let's go, baby.
So,
crush that shit, dog. Decide, act, commit. Peace. So that's interesting. It stops at 30 minutes because notice how it went red.
Yep, I saw that.
So that's perfect, dude.
We got perfectly 1 hour.
1 hour. Yeah,
That was good.
That's crazy, dude.
You rolled that shit. That's good.
That was good, man. That was